What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one we're going to be talking about the SPY, the NASDAQ, the QQQs, and the futures, break down what the charts are telling us and why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have the FOMC minutes coming out. And before I break anything down about that, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, whether it's $1 or $100, it's up to you. You're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each valued at up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share, a free NEO share, or a mix of all of them. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 7 days. Make sure you check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So when it comes to the SPY, guys, I want to note that we are down almost 2%, and we are very, very close to closing right now. And overall, the market is still taking a big hit. Now, the real question is, could the market bounce for tomorrow? That's going to be very dependent on the FOMC minutes. To start us off, there's not much going on tomorrow in the morning, but once we approach 2 o'clock p.m., Eastern time, we're going to see the FOMC minutes come out. Then after that, we have more Fed speakers. So tomorrow is going to be a very important day because of that. What are the FOMC minutes? They're basically a detailed record of the FOMC meetings, and they're actually about 3 weeks after typically every single meeting. Sometimes they could actually come in even sooner. Now, the minutes offer a more concise amount of insight on the monetary policy stances of all members of the committee. Now, what's interesting about this is the Fed was actually a little bit more on I wouldn't necessarily use the word dovish, but I wouldn't say hawkish either. They were just not hawkish. Powell did say that the Fed is going to continue to tighten, but there were signs of disinflation. But the inflationary data that came out last week from CPI, also PPI that came out, are suggesting that we're not necessarily out of the water, and we could see an increase in CPI and inflation in general. On Friday, we have PCE inflationary data coming out, so we're going to have to be very patient for all of this. But when it comes to what's going on tomorrow, if we end up getting the FOMC minutes and they end up hinting at the Fed not being as hawkish as some people believe they may be, this could actually help the markets bounce. We could see a nice bounce in the markets depending on that. If we don't end up getting the bounce, if the FOMC minutes just don't really, support anything about the Fed being more dovish, and we do see a continuation to the downside, and then the Fed speakers come out and do it the same thing, we could then see a bearish continuation in the markets, right? We could actually continue to see the market come down. So I'm going to break down the important levels, and I do believe we do have an increased probability of a bounce. I think it's a little bit more likely, but I can't promise it, right? So if we're bullish, you have to watch 400. Break above that, then we have 404. Break above that, then we have this 407 to 408 area, followed by 410. If we're bearish, all right, don't forget about the next major level. We have 398, which is where the 200 EMA happens to be on the daily. Below that, we have 395, then 393, then 390, right? We're not that far from 390. It looks like it is possible for us to come down there in the future. But I just want to note, if I could give you guys my consensus, what I think is going to happen, I think the market might get a bounce tomorrow. I do believe we're oversold. We're oversold on the RSI. I think that the market's going to try to bounce. I don't know if it's going to be a big bounce or just a small one. We should try to get to about 405 or so, maybe a little higher, but I think we're going to fail. We're going to end up failing. And then I think that we're going to chop around a little bit, then continue to come down later on. So I'm seeing a nice push up first, coming maybe during the later hours of tomorrow. Then we're going to fight around 404 to 405, maybe fail somewhere around there. Then going into the end of this week, approaching PCE, and then going into next week, I do anticipate that the market has more downside, and we are going to see SPY approach 390 by maybe like next week. Now, why do I think that? Well, I did mention to you guys that we did have lots of bearish signals coming out from the S&P 500 and SPY. We got this crossover that actually formed on the MACD, and we are seeing the RSI on this decline. On top of that, we've been downtrending quite a bit, and we are getting more and more sell signals. We also formed a very important divergence somewhere over here. You could actually see this when you look at the previous levels relative to the current ones, especially when you look at the 1 hour time frame. We do have divergences that are continuing to develop, and we did see smart money actually selling at the top of here, whereas dumb money or retail were just continuing to buy. And I don't really want to use those terms all the time. I just want to make my points as clear as possible. We did see a continuation in the divergences that were forming. So what I do essentially see now happening in the markets is it looks like we peaked all the way up here during Powell's speech at 418, and it looks like the market's been downtrending since. It was very choppy last week because of OPEX, but now it looks like we have a continuation to come right back down. The most bearish thing though, so I'm not going to talk too much about the future in my later videos. I just want to mention this to everyone. For tomorrow, I do think we could get a bounce first, but for the longer term, it looks to me like the market's going to have even more downside. I want to make that clear. Now, once again, the most bearish thing that I could think of and the most bearish thing that I could say during a time like this would be this whole move could be a giant head and shoulders. This could be a left shoulder that formed. This could be a head that just finished forming. The market might come all the way down near this area right here, get a nice bounce. If we do end up bouncing the 370s, maybe we get a failed rally again, and then the market ends up continuing down, once again coming down again. Morgan Stanley's, one of their top analysts, was saying the same thing or something very similar, that the markets could come back down to October lows over the next few months. He said before the first half ends of 2023. So he's saying within the next few months, we could see the market come down. That's a possibility. I'm not guaranteeing anything because I'm not siding with bulls or bears. I'm in the middle. I will only tell you what the charts are telling us. And right now they're telling us there's likely going to be more downside to come, at least for the overall trend. Yes, we could bounce tomorrow, but then after that, things could change. On the triple Q, there are very important things I wanted to mention about the triple Q. We have a very similar looking formation that could end up playing out. We could even see this thing continue to downtrend. So what I'm seeing on the triple Q are some very important levels. Firstly, I want to note to everyone that the triple Q was supposed to hold a very important demand zone. It actually failed today. So previous support is now going to become resistance. And this is telling me that when you look at the charts like this, we do have a falling wedge kind of like forming. We might see a bounce and a break to the upside. This thing might try to get back to maybe 297 to 300 in my opinion, but it's likely going to fail somewhere near 300 in my opinion if we get the bounce before a continuation to the downside. If it continues down, the next major level is going to be below, first off, if we're below 294, the next key level is going to be 290, then we have 287, then 286 and beyond. The VIX, as the market's dropping, the VIX is up 7%. I did tell you guys in one of my earlier videos that I expect the VIX is going to continue to respect an uptrend. That is what is playing out. And now we're above 22.7. That's another key zone. The VIX is actually holding that up pretty well. In my opinion, maybe the VIX comes down a little bit. It could try to fill this gap one last time before it continues for the upside. So this is telling me that the market might have an uptrend, a small bounce, a small push up maybe tomorrow. VIX might fill this gap around 20.2. Then the VIX should bounce off 20 and continue to fly as the market comes down later on. AMC, man, she's above $6, but I just want to note that she's just rallying as we get closer to earnings. This does not guarantee that the whole rally is going to last forever or she's about to squeeze. She's done this many times before, right? The one thing that means or that could signify a potential squeeze for AMC is the high cost to borrow. But as of right now, we're still in the sixes. We're not at some crazy high level. So I'm still going to be very patient. I do think there's more upside to come for AMC, though. She could approach the sevens very soon. For Tesla, I want to note that for Tesla, this thing actually tanked even harder than I predicted. Right here, Tesla, it failed to get that nice push up. We are respecting a falling wedge-like pattern. It could try to get it above 200, maybe approach this 205 area, but overall it's starting to show some weakness. There wasn't too much bad news that came out, so I don't think that the news is dictating this as much. It has more to do with how it was being propped up last week amidst the big amount of put expirations. So please keep that on your radar. I do think Tesla's going to try to bounce first to get to this 205 area, but then it's going to likely continue for downside. For Meta, the one and only Meta, I am seeing another very, very similar trend. What I'm noticing is Meta is still on a bit of a downtrend. It's still continuing to fill this gap down here, but I do believe it's going to try to bounce a little first and might try to get back to this 175 area, maybe a little higher. We do have some resistance around 170, 177.6, also 175. I think it's going to try for 175, maybe tomorrow get a small bounce, then see a bit of a reversal from there and continue to downtrend as we still, in my opinion, are going to fill the gap and come all the way down to the 150s over the next couple of weeks. For Microsoft, very, very similar trend in my opinion. We have this nice falling wedge-like structure. I think Microsoft is going to try to get a bounce and might try to fill this gap right here around the 157 to 158 zone before this thing does see a reversal. But overall, the trend, in my opinion, is still looking more on the bearish side. For Apple, ticker symbol AAPL, it has a very similar trend too. So anyways, I want to thank you all so much for listening. Have a great, great, great rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected and do what you have to do. And just remember, Apple might get that bounce, try to get this gap fill around 152. If it fails right there, it's going to likely see a big reversal and continue for the bearish trend. Overall, that's what I have for this video. I want to note to everyone that the dollar is still looking strong and broke above 104 as I predicted. And overall, yes, the market might get a bounce. Apple, Tesla, SPY, and etc. We could get a small bounce for Wednesday, maybe even for a part of Thursday, but then PC comes out on Friday. That could slow us down. And going into like next week and beyond, I do believe there's going to be more downside to come as the dollar is still breaking out and still looks strong. So I do believe that March is going to see more and more bearish momentum continue. And I just want to make this as clear as possible for everyone. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day. The market to the moon because the long-term future is still very bright. And peace out.